Hello, BookTube. Well, it's a bleak and barren Sunday, and for those of you who are new to the channel, that means no books in the mail for Steve, no free stuff, no galley copies, no reader's advance copies, no nothing. And on top of that, here in Boston, it's freezing cold with sleeting rain, and it's dark as midnight. So I thought I would cheer myself up with a tag, and the one I chose is the reason why we have a strange new filming location. It's called the TBR Book Tag, and I found it on the Bookables, and it was created by a blog. A Perfection Called Books is the name of the blog, and I'll link both those down below. And it's all about your TBR, your to be read pile, which is we'll run into a few problems because my execution of the TBR is different than most readers, but I'm sure we'll power through. And let's see here. The first question is, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? And that's why I'm filming here where I am, so that I can kind of sort of show you. I keep track of my TBR pile on this one bookcase. Here, let me show you. That I just arrange shelf by shelf. So the top shelf, the one that is right in front of me now, is May. Those are the books that are coming out in May. And that's how I keep track of things. I keep track of them by month. 10 years ago, when I first got back into book reviewing, I had one discrete pile of review copies, and that was it. And it was easy to keep track of it because I could just look at it. But now, now it's hundreds. So I have to do it this way. So I arrange it by month. Question number 2, is your TBR mostly print or ebook? I actually had to do the math on this because I do a lot of e-galleys as well, and it's still mostly print. It's I'd say about 75% print, and all the rest e-galleys. We'll see a couple of them, or one of them in this tag. Question number 3: how do you determine which book on your TBR to read next? And once again, I used to go mostly by inclination, just what am I interested in reading? But now, because there's so many books and because I theoretically want to read them all, I again organize it, and I let the organization deal with things for me. Let me see if I can show you once again. I organize the May books from left to right according to their month of the time of the month that they're coming out. So all the way to the left are the ones from May 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then all the way to the end. And that's determination number 1. When is the thing coming out? Because that's when May is what I'm actively reading, so or rereading, depending on whether or not I've got a finished copy of something that I read months ago. I'm still going to read it again, so it's still going to be in May, and I'll do that for the most part. The other determining factor is whether or not the book looks worth the time. And if for instance it's a paperback reprint or a paperback original that looks a little shoddy, like maybe it couldn't make it in the big leagues or something like that, then I'll give more interesting or more reputable looking stuff a little bit of a shot early, never more than a couple of weeks, and never exclusive. I still get to those other books. Question number 4: a book that's been on your TBR the longest. Well, as you can tell from this setup, that won't be through disinclination. It will just be it'll be a question of which publicist has her act together better than the others. Which publicist has an advance copy further ahead than the others do. Like, for instance, looking at May here, there are, well, we've seen a lot of these books on the channel. I've got a lot of finished copies. I've got a lot of stuff that I've had for a while. Like, for instance, this thing, when did we might have seen this on the channel, Inheritance from Mother, which is out now and being reviewed. But I've had this for a while. I've had it for months. And so on with a lot of these. Dunmore's War, all of these Europa books. Europa's really good about early stuff. The Pattern and Instinct. We've seen all of these. You could probably tell me better than I could tell you how long things have been on these shelves. Because once I get them, I haul them on camera for you. I talk about them a little, and then I put them where they belong. I put them in the month that they belong. So it's not a question like with a lot of readers of, oh, I'm just not in the mood. It's more a question of, it just isn't time yet. Question number 5, a book you recently added to your TBR. I actually have one here. This thing by David Wallace, a tiny little handbook introducing Chaucer to readers. Basically, a beefed up Wikipedia page, only the main difference being that this is by a great Reformation historian. In fact, we saw a book of his. We saw his big book, Heretics and Believers, I think is the name of it, that's just come out in a gorgeous black finished copy. Oh, just lovely. So, ordinarily, well, this is from Oxford University Press, and ordinarily I wouldn't care about, what is this? Yeah, 100 pages. I wouldn't care about a 100-page introduction to Chaucer, no matter who published it. But if it's this author, then he's going to work in interesting things even while he's covering all the basics. So I will definitely read it, and I'll definitely care about it. Question number 6, a book on your TBR strictly because of its beautiful cover. Well, as you can tell, right, I don't often see the covers, especially not in the first round with the ARCs. So there's nothing here that's here for its cover. But that's just know the difference. I don't buy my books in bookstores. So if I did, maybe I'd be more vulnerable to cover buys than I am now. I'd like to think not. I remember when I walked into bookstores and couldn't afford anything, and had to choose very carefully which book I was going to get. I certainly wouldn't, in those days, have bought a book simply because it looked good. I would have studied it 6 ways from Sunday. But you never know. That might be different now that I have a bit of disposable income. Question number 7, a book on your TBR that you never plan on reading. BookTube. This raises my often raised question of what we're actually talking about when we talk about a TBR. I think with a lot of people on BookTube and on Goodreads especially, there's an element, a weird psychological element of stubbornness or fantasy involved in TBRs that I don't understand at all. I understand TBRs as the books you're planning on reading. Not someday, but relatively immediately. And so the idea that there's a book on your TBR that you plan on never reading, then it's not on your TBR, right? Then it's on whatever isn't your TBR. It's on your OBOT, your other books out there, your other books out there list. It's on your OBOT list. And who talks about their OBOT list? Nobody. Who enumerates which titles are on their OBOT list? Not many people that I know of. It's ridiculous. If it's on your TBR list, then you do plan on reading it. And if you plan on never reading it, it's not on your TBR list, no matter where you keep it in your house. Sorry, I'm a little too tired to rant, so I'll try to keep it to a minimum. Question number 9, a book on your TBR that basically everyone's read but you. Now, for me, this is going to be one of those tricky dispositive questions because I'm reading almost all of my books ahead of time, ahead of the general public. So for me, when this question asks almost that basically everyone's read but you, the everyone suddenly reduces to a tiny crowd of people, a tiny crowd of fellow nonfiction book critics. And there actually is a candidate. There's one that I think 4 people that I know have now plowed through or are plowing through at the moment, all of whom say it's fantastic, and it's this. Let's see if it's David Garrow's Rising Star, his biography of the pre-presidential years of Barack Obama. And I don't know why I haven't got to it yet. I honestly don't. It's 1,400 pages long about the last president that the United States will ever have. You'd think that I'd have gotten to it by now. I haven't, and I blame it solely on the workplace. I know that's craven of me, but I need an excuse, and that's the one I'm going to choose. I blame the fact that no editor actually approached me and said, "Hey, are you interested in taking this on?" So it stayed well below my radar. I am going to fix that before the month is out. Let's see here. Question number 10, a book on your TBR that everyone recommends to you. I won't say everyone. because again, it's a bit more rarefied for me. I'm not dealing with books that other people have read, but that's not exclusively true. Thanks to the advent of things like NetGalley, and to the large and the growing number of publishers who realize that any advance word about their books is good advance word about their books, and it doesn't have to come anymore from the book critic of the Wall Street Journal. There are all sorts of channels for getting people talking about books, for getting people anticipating books. And if you can find someone who does a good enough job doing that, even if they're criticizing the book, to get 10 people, only 10, not 100, not 1,000, just 10 people, to say, that's going on my TBR, I plan on buying that book, then any publicist in the world who knows their job should make sure you get a copy of that book ahead of time. Because the vast majority of people who read aren't in a position to do that. They read, well, you've seen the statistics as well as I do, one book a year at most. So I'm very glad that a lot of publicists and a lot of publishers have started to realize that, and have started to make NetGalley wide open to booktubers, for instance, who are plugged into a book community and actually have audiences. So every once in a while, one of you will read a book on NetGalley well ahead of time, because a lot of publishers post things well ahead of time on NetGalley, before I do. Britta has done that a couple of times. And my first reaction the first time it happened was, how dare you? But now I actually kind of like it. It's a way, kind of, sort of bringing me back into the normal community of readers, which I like. So it doesn't happen often. But when it does, I like it. And those of you who are interested in that, and who are actively reading and actively talking about books, I urge you to go to Edelweiss and go to NetGalley and try your hand at getting copies. If you have a BookTube audience and you have of a couple of hundred people, it's worth a try. The one thing that I would urge you all not to do, and you know who you are, is to go to NetGalley and treat it like your shopping cart at Book Outlet, or like your TBR list on Goodreads, and just request everything willy-nilly without any idea that you're going to read it, much less review it. That's bad. That's a way to get the system shut down for everybody. So kindly don't do that. I said I wouldn't rant, though. Let's see here. Question number 11. A book on your TBR that you're dying to read. I just got it. The other day. This great big thing. The Second World War is by Victor David Hanson, which is a gigantic narrative history of World War II, and it looks like it might be his magnum opus, which would be, he's a historian, military historian and biographer that I really like. So I can't wait. I just got it, and I'm very eager to read it. Unfortunately, there are a good solid dozen things ahead of it on the runway, so it's going to have to wait just a bit. And question number 12, the last question. How many books are on your Goodreads TBR shelf? I don't have a Goodreads TBR shelf. Again, this is a part and parcel of so far in 2017, my dismal failure with Goodreads, where hundreds of thousands of readers go all the time, where almost all the booktubers that I know maintain an active presence on Goodreads. It's clear to me that a lot of them began to like the virtual book community experience on Goodreads first, before they tried BookTube. And I want to be a big part of that, but I just haven't. It hasn't clicked in my mind. It's a thing some of you will experience when you reach 28 years old. You can't make these things happen. It will click in my mind, and when it does, I will do it. That just recently happened with Bookstagram. I actually have a Bookstagram channel, and I actually enjoy it. Now that I get it, now that I know what I want to do on it, I like it and wouldn't stop doing it. And there has to be a channel like that for Goodreads in my brain. There has to be. The book experience for all of us is incredibly multifaceted. Incredibly. There are all kinds of gears and channels going on all the time. And most of my life, I have been content with channeling all of those things into one rude course and just letting the outlying things wait for themselves. And I don't need to do that anymore. Thanks to social media and the internet, there's a channel now for every single discrete aspect of of my book experience. I just need to figure out what that is for Goodreads. And once I do, oh my God, you won't be able to shut me up over there. But in terms of a rough equivalent of my TBR shelf on Goodreads, I did a rough count of the books on this bookcase, and it's 400 and change. So, but I have a couple of I think it's 4 or 5 dozen confirmed books for next week. So, as soon as the mail starts up again on Monday, that number will start increasing. So I don't know. I'm not complaining at all. But there you go. That is the TBR book tag. The first moment that I saw it, I thought, well, you can't do that. You can't do the TBR tag. What are you going to do? But there's more that unites us than divides us, as the great President Bartlett once said. So and I managed to do it. And now it's left for me to tag people. And I don't know who's done the TBR book tag. I'm guessing that because it originates with a blog, probably not many of you have. And I tag all my usual suspects. I tag Britta. I tag Jess. I tag Chris Rhodes. Well, it wouldn't kill you to do a tag. It wouldn't kill you to make a booktube video. I tag Ben Sanders, who's recently returned. I tag Jack the Bibliophile, who not only has recently returned, but who, like Gandalf, is slowly de-aging. He's like T.H. White's Merlin. He returned with a navel-length beard that made him look like Ethelred the Unready. But he is slowly losing the facial hair and gaining youth as he comes along. So I expect that any video now, he's going to be back to looking like an earnest 18-year-old, which probably drives him nuts. It's probably the reason for the facial hair in the first place. Olive, Book Olive, who does a marvelous job of keeping her facial hair intact. Britt, I tag Elisa from Paper Bits. I tag Caleb. Oh, I can't remember the last time you did a tag. I'd love it if you did this one. And even Adam from Memento Mori. I even tag him. I don't know if it can be done in the rice paddies of Thailand, but if it can, I trust he'll do it. And that's it for now. I will see you once the mail resumes. Thank you, BookTube.